Uh, Welcome back. This is Kevin, and we're working on conceptual data modeling, and we're ready to move on to the next activity. We have the entity. We've drawn all the entity boxes that we can think of on the diagram, and now we're ready to begin with relationships. Okay, and if we've done some kind of a planning exercise like the ragbag exercise beforehand, well then we have a list of what we're thinking are the relationships. Okay, so this is what came out of the ragbag exercise for this um, data model: registered for, teaches, for semester, attended, is meeting of, is user for student, is user for instructor, has permission. Okay, so let's think about those and start getting this done. Okay, um, so let's think about this. Registered for. Okay. Um, Now, what's interesting, so the first one I have is a relationship type registered for, and I also have an entity registration, and I'm a little suspicious that they're the same thing. Okay, so I don't want to start there. Where can I start? Teaches. Okay, so I'm going to think that that's a relationship between course offering and instructors. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to highlight all of these. I can highlight them as a group by clicking and dragging. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move these down a bit, okay, to give myself some room, okay, and I'm going to keep dragging them down later on. So if I'm going to draw the relationship teaches that it connects instructor and course offering. Well, let's do that. So um, click outside of the selected area and drag instructor up here. Okay, maybe right there. Okay, drag a course offering over here. All right. And now we want to draw a relationship between the two. And the way that we do this is that we hover over the entity box until we see these dots, and then we're able to pull from box to box. And I just happen to know that we tend to pull from the one side to the many side. So, does one course offering get taught by many instructors, or does one instructor teach many course offerings? Well, let's assume that it's one instructor per course. So let's put our cursor over that little dot till it turns red and pull to the right and then drop, and we've got one to many. Okay. All right. That cardinality looks like it's probably right, but the we've got a couple of problems. At least here in the fall of 2021, the lines that we're getting are solid, and the kinds of diagrams that we are drawing, we're using the format from information engineering. And solid lines have a special meaning that have to do with identifying relationships and weak entities and all that kind of stuff that I'm not too keen on. So I'm going to click on the relationship line, and I'm going to go up here. Okay, this is these left the couple boxes are the properties of the line, and the right couple boxes are the properties for the cardinality connectors. Okay, so I'm going to set the line to dashed. Okay, that's good. And I'm going to highlight the line again. And uh, I think the cardinalities are generally fine, but we want to show the minimum and the maximum. So instead of just one, I'm going to click this box and pick one and only one. Okay. And then on the right hand side, instead of just many, I'm going to pick 0 to many. Okay. Now, in terms of the cardinality, one can argue, should it be 0 to many? Should it be 1 to many? Um, I want to be able to add an instructor before I know what course they're going to be teaching, right? So let's leave that there. Okay. Very good. Um, so that I think is going to capture instructors and course offerings. Okay. So what I mean by a course offering? Well, we have in the university world, we typically have courses that have a number and a name, and then we teach sections of courses that are for a particular semester. Okay, so maybe course offering is maybe not the name that we want. Let's just call that course section. Okay, change that to course section. Okay. Okay, so an entire instructor teaches a course section. All right. So a course section is uh, it's for a particular course, like oh, IS 446 Systems Analysis and Design, and it's for a particular semester. Okay. Well, I don't think we have an entity for course, but we do have one for semester. So let's bring that up. Okay. So let's say that a course section is for a semester. Okay. And it's also for a course. Okay. Well, we don't have a course yet. Well, let's bring a box out. Okay. So let's shade the header and let's call it a course. Okay, that's fine. So a course section, all right, uh, is going to have a relationship to a semester. It's for a semester. Oh, guess what? The first relationship that we had, we didn't give it a name. So how do we do that? Well, we select the line and then we double click on it. It gives us a text box. And let's just say that this relationship is teaches. Okay. All right. So we're going to need some more relationships. Um, so I'm thinking that each course has potentially many sections. So let's highlight course and draw over to, whoa, we didn't highlight it, we pulled it. So you hover over it till you get that red dot, and then you pull, and we're going to see this. Okay, and again, this is a little tiresome, but we have to change it to a dashed line. Okay, and I think that we've got them one to many right, but we need to change the cardinality so whether we're saying one and only one, and we're going to say 0 to many. Okay, well, that's good. All right, now the semester, I think we're going to have the same thing. So let's bring the semester over here. And you know what? I'm thinking that we need a way to attach the semester here. And I'm wondering if I can drag this thing just a little bit to the left so I can attach them both. It looks like I can. Okay, so the semester, again, this is going to be a one-to-many. Okay, so I don't think you have to select the box in order to get this thing to draw. You just have to hover over the bottom and get this and pull it over, and let's connect it right here. Okay, and again, we want a dashed line. All right, and we need to change the cardinality on the many side. We want it to be 0 to many, and the cardinality on the one side we want to be 1 and only 1. Okay. Now, we don't have relationship names. Probably, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that the section is for a semester and for a course. Okay, so let's double click on semester and say the name is for semester. And let's come over here and double click on the relationship to course and say it's for course. Okay, I think we're doing pretty well there. All right, I'm liking it so far. So I'm going to come over here and see. Oh, I tell you what I was doing. It was registered for and registers. So let's think about this. I think we want to bring the student in right now. We have the instructor on the left side. Let's put the student on the right side. So let's go find our student. They're down here in our list of our kind of segregated entities. Let's bring student up here. Okay. And in this case, we have a sort of interesting thing. So each course section has 0 to many students, okay, because we might not have registered any yet. And each student is registered for 0 to many course sections. Okay, so we have a many to many. Okay, and in conceptual data modeling, we can represent that directly. Okay, so let's do that. So let's come over here and draw a line across. Okay, that wasn't what I wanted. So I didn't quite get there. If I grab it like this, yeah. Okay, so that's good. So what do I need? Well, I need a dashed line. Let's make that a dashed line. And I need to change the cardinality indicators. Now, it's going to be it's 0 to many at both ends. Okay. Now, those of you who have worked with relational databases, you probably know that these many-to-many relationships can't be implemented directly in relational databases, and that's fine. That's the kind of thing that we will that's the kind of thing that we will fix when we get to the logical database design phase and create another kind of data model. But right now, we're in conceptual data modeling, and many-to-manys are as simple as drawing a many-to-many line. Okay, let's give it a name. Okay, so I kind of like these things to kind of be balanced. So if we're saying instructor teaches course section, then let's say student registers, yeah, let's say registered for. registered for course section. Okay, well, that looks pretty good. All right, I like that so far. Very nice. So, one thing that you think about when you're using these uh, uh, the computer-based tools is, um, do I need to stop and save this thing? And normally, as you're going along, it will periodically save for you. But if you look up here, it says blank diagram. Okay, so um, I'm going to kind of ask myself what I want this to be called. And in most of the courses that I teach, the name for this would be uh, the following. Let me, can I, can I change that name? Right now I can't change that name. So how can I do it? Well, I'll go to the menu, and I just want to point out that because this application runs in the browser, okay, well, it has the problem that you have to distinguish between the menu uh, inside the browser for the app, and then the menu uh, for the browser, which here on the Mac is up at the top of the window. But if you were in a Windows operating system, it would just be up at the top of the browser. So we want the menu inside the browser, the one for the Lucid app. So we want to click on File and then Save. And it's going to allow us to name it. So I'm just going to use the scheme that I would use for this assignment. So surname, trainer, okay, underscore, given name, Kevin, okay, and then conceptual data model. Okay, and then it's just the name of my assignment. If I was going to be creating a lot of conceptual data models, admittedly, this wouldn't be a good name to save it under. But when I'm thinking as a student in one of my classes, I probably would like to name it like this. So I click on Rename, and you can see I've got the name up here now. Now, I realize now that I've got some space here at the top that I'm probably not going to want. So let's try to move these items. So I'm going to click and drag around all those things, and then I'm going to hover till I get the moving icon, and I'm going to I got that name. Okay. Yeah, okay, now it seems to be dragging the whole thing. All right. And somewhere I had this this is often a problem for me. There was a little dotted line there somewhere. So that's not working so well for me. So how do I undo this? Well, I'm on the Mac, so I undo with Command Z. If I were on Windows, I'd undo with Control Z. So I'm going to Command Z and have it go back to where it was. And now, okay, now I went back to the point where I have it highlighted and I can see where I want to move it to. That looks a little healthier. And let's just move it up there. If I wanted to put a name on the top of the diagram, I would still have room. Okay. Now, one thing to remember here, these are maybe a little close to each other because eventually I'm going to be adding the attributes. And so these things are going to get a little bit bigger, but I'll worry about that when I come to it. Okay, so I've got my registered for, I've got my teacher, I've got my teaches, I've got my for semester, um, I got my for course that wasn't on my list. I added that. Uh, I've got user has permission, those kinds of things. Okay. Now, here's something interesting. Um, I've got is user for is user for student, is user for instructor. So I'm thinking here that I might want to be using a super type subtype hierarchy here because both students and instructors are going to be users of the system who are going to have certain permissions to do things in the system. And so I could probably use a super type in order to take care of that. So how am I going to do that? Well, let's think about that. In order to do that, I think I'm going to want to put my students and my instructors over on the same side of the diagram. So now I'm going to be moving things again. So let me think about that. Let's highlight this kind of stuff and let's move it off to the right. All right. All right. That's looking pretty good. And I think, I'm trying to think, how's that working? Yeah, okay, that's working pretty well. And here's something to think about that I didn't really talk about before, and that is what shape is this page? Okay, I probably wanted to have picked, well, you have to decide. Do you want a page that's in a landscape orientation, or do you want a page that's in a portrait orientation? And I forget what we're in right now. It looks like we might be in a, whoop, sorry about that. It looks like we might be in a landscape orientation. What are we? Well, no, I think we're in landscape. I like landscape for these kinds of things, so I'm just going to leave it like that. Okay, so let's come back over here. All right, and let's bring our student around. Okay, so let's drag our student, bring our student around over here. All right, that looks good. Now the connectors are in kind of weird places, right? So let's bring them. Can I drag the connector? Doesn't seem to want to. You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to take, can I drag it? Will it drag? Interesting question. Now I'm just getting all kinds of a mess here. So I'm going to undo that draw. I'm just going to get rid of registered for here. This is sort of the brute force approach. Okay. And I'm going to say, I'm going to draw it again. Okay. And remember, what were the changes here? Well, dashed line, many to many at both ends, 0 to many at both ends. 0 to many here, 0 to many here. Okay. And let's put registered for. Okay. All right. So historically, I've stayed away from super types and subtypes in these courses, but I've decided to dive in the current semester. Okay, so I'm saying that the super type is going to be uh, let's call them a user. Okay. And instead of instructor and student, let's call these things, I guess we could say that we have an instructor user and a student user. Okay, so let's change them a little bit. Instructor user, ER, and student user, ER again. Okay. All right. And we want to go to user and we want to give it a shaded header. Okay, that's good. And if we're going to have a subtype, we need a special symbol to put in here. And in our class, we're using a circle because there's no good symbol that comes with the entity relationships. And the one that I like, the size of the circle I like, comes on a kind of a diagram called BPMN. Okay, so let's click on add more shapes. Okay, and BPMN 2.0. Okay, the only reason we're picking that is it has a pretty little circle. That's it. Use selected shapes. Okay, so now we have a pretty little circle. So let's drag that out. It calls it an event. Let's drag that out here. Yeah, I think that's okay. Now, one problem is the circle comes with this thing, with this text that says event. Okay, and you have to select the shape and then press delete, and it will get rid of that word event. And you can pick another circle. This is the one that I found that's about the right size. Okay. And then what we want to do is we want to connect the circle to all three of these entities. Okay. Now, if you draw from the circle to the entity, you won't get any of these cardinality markings. So that's what we want to do. So I'm going to go over by the circle, and I see a red dot appear. And I'm just going to click and grab it and pull to the left. Okay, and it gives me a solid line. A solid line is fine here. Okay, we don't need a dash line. But as you can see, it gave me an arrowhead. So how do I get rid of the arrowhead? Well, the solid line's okay, but the arrowhead up here, these are the line endings. So I've got a none on one end, that's fine, an arrowhead on the other. Click the drop down and pick none. Okay, and that's it. It looks good. All right, so let's do the same thing to connect it to instructor user. Okay. And again, we've got to turn the line ending to none so that we don't have an arrowhead. And let's click down here and connect this one. And we got to get rid of the arrowhead again. Okay, and this is kind of the wildest thing I've done in this this activity in a while. I've always kind of shied away from using supers and subs, but I think we're ready for it. Okay. Okay. So so here's the idea that we're seeing. We have users of the system, and these users are either instructors or students. Okay. and we'll be able to discover which type of user they are. Okay, so what other kind of things have we got? We had a system user, and we drew that, so we can get rid of that. Uh, I decided that we didn't need an entity for registration. That we could just draw a double-ended relationship line. So let's get rid of that one. So we have a class meeting and permissioned. We haven't found a home for yet. Okay, so let's look for those. I was just thinking of permissions because um, I'm looking at my list of relationship types that came from my ragbag exercise, and I have this has permission. Okay, I'm getting down on that list. So let's pull this up a bit. Okay, and let's say that a particular user has permission, um, and it really depends upon what your thinking is. But if there's a system that we're building, okay, and we can express the functionalities in a couple of ways. If we're taking a traditional approach, we have identified use cases. Okay, so we're giving the user permission to run a use case. So they log in and they get permission to run the use case. Or if we're doing this in a more agile way, we're doing user stories. And again, a user story is a kind of a unit of functionality. So we would be giving them permission to run a user story. So a user would have permission. Okay. All right. Let's connect those with a relationship line. Okay, so a user could have permission to run many user stories. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so again, permission for what? Okay, well, some kind of system function, user story, use case, something that they have to do. Okay, so I think we need to represent that. So what's kind of interesting here, and certainly interesting for you when you go to do your assignment, is that this user permission, whatever we're working on here, this is sort of a general pattern. Okay, so do I have room to put this down here? Yeah, let's just put this down here for now. Okay, so what's this going to be called? Okay, so something that's really popular these days is to look at the functionality and express them in terms of user stories. So let's just say they have permission to run a user story. Okay, and let's give that shading. Okay. And how does the many to one work on this? Well, I'm going to, because I know how it's going to work, I'm going to draw the one side on the user story and the many side on the permission. Okay. And let's think about this. Okay. So what is this? So this is a many to many. Oh, you know what? If this is going to be a many to many, maybe permission, at least in a conceptual data model, is going to be a relationship. Okay. Now, again, if we go and implement this as a relational database, okay, well then, but to create a many-to-many relationship, so we can show that many users can run a user story and user stories can be run by many users. That's a many-to-many. And we can implement that directly in a relational database. But you know what? I think this is like the registrations. In a conceptual data model, uh, we don't need an associative entity unless we have to carry extra data. Now, do we have to carry extra data? I don't think so. So, guess what? We're going to get rid of permission as an entity, and we're going to model it as a relationship because we're doing conceptual data modeling. So let's bring this over here. And let's say that there's a many-to-many between users and user stories. This is how we're going to say who's allowed to run what. Okay, so what do we need to do to this? Well, it's a solid line right now. We have to make it dashed. Make it dashed. And we need both ends to be 0 to many. This is interesting. So we have two kinds of users that we see so far. Okay, and they are sub-entities of the super entity user. And one of the things that we use the user for is to give permissions to run user stories. That's how we know what individual users are able to do in the system. And then the relationship between user and user story has permission. Let's put that down. Has permission to run the user story. Okay, so that's how we know what users are able to run what functions in our system. All right, that's pretty good. Okay, so we're pretty far along. Okay, except for this. What we really want to record is we really want to record what students have attended which class meetings, okay, and we don't have anything for that yet. So let's look at this. Okay, so we want to do class meetings. We want to bring them in here. Okay. So a class meeting is for a course section. That makes sense. Okay. And I think we want to move this over. Oh, that didn't work. I hit escape. Did that stop it? No. So I have to do an undo. On my Mac, that's Command Z. On Windows, it would be Control Z. And let's see if we can find a way to drag this over. Let's undo that. Is there a way to drag this over? I find this hard to do. Okay, so I'm gonna, I see I'm drawing another relationship, undo. If I were a little bit better at this diagrammer, I would know how to do that. But okay, I'm not gonna worry about that. So what's the relation of class meetings to something? Well, I look at relationship types, and I have one that came out of my ragbag session. Is meeting of. Okay, it's a meeting of a class of a course section. Okay, let's draw a relationship. So the one side's going to be in course section, and the many side's going to be in class meeting. Okay, so let's come up here. Let's unselect that. Okay, so now we've got a red dot, and let's come down here. Okay, that's good. So let's fix up the line. So it should be dashed. Let's change it to dashed. Okay. And the one side, so one course section can have many class meetings. That sounds right. So let's change that to one and only one. Okay. And then the many side, I'm going to make 0 to many. Okay, and I just want to kind of scratch the itch of the question that you may have in your mind, which is that shouldn't that be one to many? You know, shouldn't a course section have at least one um, class meeting? And I just want to say is when you're building a system, okay, you're going to add the course sections before you add the class meetings when you're populating the database or whatever kind of data store that you have. And it's entirely possible. So when you add the course section, it's not going to have any class meetings yet. So at that point, it's going to be 0. Okay. So that's fine. And then what's this called? Uh, let's say called has meeting. Okay. All right. That's looking pretty good. Okay. Now, the fact that this is all about is that who attended which class meeting. Okay. Well, that's going to be between student user and class meeting. Okay. So how are we going to do that? Well, that's a relationship. Okay. And it's going to be a many to many. So again, if we come over here and we park ourselves on student, well, one student, you know, that can attend 0 to many class meetings. Okay, and a class meeting was attended by 0 to many student users. So we're going to need a many to many line. Okay, so let's go up there till we get the red dot and come down here and connect them. And what are we going to need? Well, we're going to need it to be a dashed line. Okay. And we're going to need it to be 0 to many at each end. So let's do that. 0 to many. Okay, and what are we going to call it? The fact is going to be that they attended a meeting. Attended meeting. Okay. All right. So I think that's looking pretty good. Okay, do we have any more of those entities left that we pulled down there? No, we don't. Um, what about relationship types? Here's my list that I was working from. Registered for, I've got that. Teaches for semester, attended, is meeting of, is user for student, is user for instructor. I was using those in the days when I wasn't using type hierarchies. Has permission. Huh? That's all the things we were thinking about. So I'm thinking this is in pretty good shape here right now. Okay. And we're ready to finish up the phase where we add the relationships and move on to the next one where we're going to deal with attributes and identifiers. Well, it looks like we're almost done here. But I've just paused and done a little bit of thinking. And I'm looking at this uh, decision that we made to have a supertype subtype relationship among the entities user, instructor user, and student user. And I have to confess, I've already done the design for this, at least twice previously. And I didn't use supers and subs. And also, when I just did the lecture for conceptual data modeling, I was pretty clear that you should be pretty suspicious of using supers and subs. You have to make a strong case. And as I look at this, I'm realizing that the case isn't as strong as I was thinking a few minutes ago. Um, uh, Here's what worries me, okay? In order to have a really practical super sub relationship, um, all of the sub entities should be dis disjoint. Okay, so an instance of the super entity should be an instance of one and only one sub entity. So, for instance, if someone is a student, okay, are they also could they also be an instructor? And the answer is no. Okay, it's possible to set that up, but it's very problematic. It leads to lots of heartache. Okay, um, and then the other thing is it's typically good if um, every instance of user is either a student or an instructor. You couldn't have some third thing that we don't have a subentity for, like a system admin. You remember over here, in terms of the ideas that came out of my ragbag exercise, I had system admin. And I was thinking of it as an important instance. Well, what would be an important instance of? Well, it's certainly an instance of user, but not an instance of either instructor or student. So I think this is really passed into the realm of not being a good candidate for a super sub type hierarchy. So I'm going to blow it away. How am I going to do it? Well, I'm going to click on that special symbol that we're using to distinguish it as a relationship and delete it. And that's going to leave me those solid lines. I'm going to get rid of those. And these are just going to be ordinary entities with ordinary instances. And we need to know if a user is a student or whether they're an instructor. And we'll do that with two relationships. So let's draw a relationship between, these aren't instructor users anymore. These are just instructors. So instructor entity and then student entity. Okay. Which is what they were in all my previous versions of this. And now I'm going to draw a relationship down to user. I'll put it in the top half. And I'm going to do the same down here and put it in the bottom half. Okay, and let's should be a dashed line. Okay. And let's think about this. Each instance of user is either going to be one student or no students if they're not a student. So 0 or 1. Okay. So over there where I have the one, I wanted to say 0 or 1. 1, yeah, I have that. And then over here, each student instance is going to be one and only one user instance. So we don't want a many, we want a one and only one. Okay. And we're going to want to do the same things to the other relationship line because they're kind of parallel. Okay, so over on the one side, we want 0 or 1. Okay, and where we have the many, we want it to say 1 and only 1. Okay, okay. And let's say, let's double click on this and give it a relationship name. Okay, and let's say is instructor user. Okay. And the other one is going to say is student user. Okay. And maybe we can pull these over a little bit. Maybe that'll look a little better. Huh? Yeah, I think that does. Okay, so I'm more comfortable with this. Again, this kind of super sub idea is very enticing, and yet I don't think this is a place to use it. Okay, this is especially true if you remember that relational databases, at least the relational database standard, has no support for super sub relationships with entities. And so if we're going down the path where we're going to implement this with a relational database, we're not going to, we're just going to turn these into ordinary tables and ordinary relationships anyway. Okay, so let's avoid the rush. Okay, it was a seductive opportunity to use supers and subs, but we've now successfully talked our way out of it. So now I think we're done with the relationships. Okay, and let's just take a peek at the whole picture here. We can. It's currently let's say zoom to content. Yeah, there we are. So we can see it all. So we've got course, semester, they're related to course section, taught by an instructor. Okay. Course sections have registered students. Okay. Class meetings are for course sections. A student attended a meeting. That's what the fact is going to mean. And instructors and students can be users. They can have a relationship to a user in that they are an instructor user or a student user. And users have certain permissions to run user stories, some piece of functionality of our system. And that's maybe a little bit more complex than the last one of these that I designed, but it's what really has me feeling good here today. So before I change my mind again, I'm going to sign off and say I'll be back when we deal with attributes and identifiers. Bye for now.